Hello, happy Wednesday, and welcome to Happy Hour here on Two Way with me, Meghan McCain. I'm your host. If you recognize these two people, that means you've probably been following my work for a long time. These are two of my dear friends who also happen to work in media. We have Seena Ghaznavi, who is the host of not one but two podcasts on Sirius XM and the Last Podcast Network called The Foreign Report, which is a weekly show about geopolitics. And my personal favorite, sorry, Seena, it's my personal favorite, taking a drink because it's happy hour. I appreciate it. His podcast, Fraudsters, which is a true crime comedy show that dives deep into the other major scams and cons of our time. That's my personal favorite podcast, I have to say, Seena. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. And then we have Miranda here, live from her closet, my longtime producer friend and co-host of our podcast, which still technically exists, Citizen McCain. That's another story for another time.
Does it though? Hi.
Yes, thank you all so much, both of you, for coming on. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't point out that you're two of my dear friends who came to my wedding. I mean, I love you both so much. Thank you for taking time tonight.
We love you. We love each other.
We love you, yeah.
This
I
is
do.
a big group hug.
This
Yes.
is our
I do.
polycule. That's great to be here with.
If we were to do that, I think that
only-
this would be a solid one. Yeah.
Only one person on this chat didn't dabble in polyamory before getting married. And I'm just saying,
Not
I'm
me.
the conservative one on this chat. Oh, okay.
Well, as
Sorry,
Megan
not
loves
to
to say, I'm a child bride, so it wasn't me either.
It
Yeah.
wasn't me. Okay. All right. We're gonna keep going. Okay. So before we started filming, Seena said it's Liberation Day, which I don't know if anyone's gonna get that joke, but some of the
Is it?
I mean, let's explain to the audience what happened in case this is the first, little bit of news they're seeing today. So, for people that don't know, Donald Trump has told his inner circle, including members of his cabinet, that Elon Musk will be stepping back in the coming weeks and returning to his business at Tesla, and SpaceX. There are conflicting reports of whether or not this was something that was pre-planned because he is a private citizen that was hired for a special reason, in the Trump administration, and it was always planned for him to leave at the end of May. Insiders are saying that he will remain a present face in Trump's orbit. It was reportedly a joint decision in Trump world. Caroline Leavitt is saying it's all happy, hunky-dory. This is all great, whatever. But there's some inconvenient truths for us to analyze right now. One of them is that last night, Susan Crawford won the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin, defeating conservative Attorney General Brad Schimmel, and she won handily by double digits. For people that don't know, this is a very important Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin that Elon Musk personally contributed $25 million to the campaign, but despite this investment, obviously lost. I want to show you really quickly. I love Harry Enton. I hate CNN, but I really love Harry Enton, the pollster. I just want to show you this clip talking about Elon's favorability. Let's go.
Elon Musk spent big in this race to sway the Supreme Court race there, and he also went to Wisconsin, which may honestly have backfired.
Yeah, I think it may have backfired. Look, I think if there's one thing
The
we
Miranda,
should
I'm
be
gonna want the
taking away
picture.
from the results in Wisconsin and the polling that we have from Wisconsin and national, if you are a Republican candidate running in a swing state, you don't want Elon Musk anywhere near you. Yes, maybe you like the money, but you do not want his presence in your state. Why is that? Elon Musk, simply put, is an unpopular guy. He is political poison. Look in Wisconsin, his net favorable rating, minus 12 points, 12 points underwater. That is an even worse number when you look nationally. Look at that. It's minus 17 points. So if there's one big lesson to take away from Wisconsin is Elon Musk does not help Republicans when he shows up. If anything, the data suggests that he hurts them. Republicans, stay clear of Elon Musk if you want to win in a swing state, at least in terms of his physical appearance in your state.
Okay, and I just want to show one physical appearance photo too. I want everyone to see this because Elon Musk actually went and campaigned in Wisconsin and he wore this hat.
I love
That hat. So wearing that hat isn't going to work. I personally, by the way, am stone set. I've been asked to wear that hat. I'm not wearing that hat.
My mom has that hat on her bedpost because she was born in Madison, Wisconsin.
So I gotta ask you guys, $25 million is a big chunk of change to put in a Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. It was a disaster. Do you think these two things are connected? Let's start with you, Seena. What do you make of all this? Do you think it's connected that was leaked to Politico's Rachel Bade today that Elon will be leaving the White House after this? It's not great to spend $25 million and lose.
He's an awful person, and he's awful to work with. People that even liked him say he's awful to work with. It's not a surprise that people that worked with him for a while are like, this guy's awful to work with. So let's get him out of here. He thinks he's the coolest guy in the world. And let's be honest, he's literally, as he has said, emotionally disabled. And so he cannot empathize with people. And if you go to Wisconsin and you start talking down to the Rust Belt of America in Wisconsin and a bunch of cheeseheads, people that are, shareholders in their football team, you're not going to be liked. He is the least Wisconsin person you could possibly put in Wisconsin. No one's going to like him.
Yeah, but the thing if you talk to any Republican in power, anyone, it doesn't matter. There's not one Republican holding office is going to say anything bad against Elon Musk, not one. And he seems to be sort of like a sacred cow in this space because he is bankrolling so much money. It literally has access to the White House. There's pictures of him taking his children in and out. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And people within the White House are like, he's amazing. We love what he's doing for the country. We love what DOGE is doing. But what Harry Ensign said is no joke. -17 approval is like, if someone came to me and said, I want to run for office and I have -17 approval, I'd be like, we got a lot of problems to fix right now. Do you think that they are seeing, just the writing on the wall with his popularity? Because I don't think he's a net favorable and for a lot of different reasons. And I have felt like an outlier and like I was going to I don't know, have people be angry at me because I said that.
So there's a few things here. So Elon Musk, there's a name for when a capitalist has too much power over people in government. And I think we all know what that is, right? They have too much influence. People are afraid. He gave out two $1 million checks. How are we not in violation of the Hatch Act at some point here? Mm-hmm. How are we not having some huge problems with this? So these are things that I think we have politicians, because $25 million, by the way, not much for him. George Soros, that everyone makes is this big boogeyman, sent $2 million. I think he's broke now. Is he broke? This is $25 million is nothing for Elon Musk. This is what we should be afraid of. And thankfully, in Wisconsin, they actually stood up to something like this, to all that money. So that's, I think, the biggest thing to keep in mind here.
Miranda, how many tea leaves can you read from this? Or is this just Democrats wanting to be excited about a small win?
I think Democrats are excited about a small win, but they'll take what they can get. So my 80-something-year-old grandmother texted me last night at 10 p.m. saying, we're so happy. She lives in Wisconsin. We're so happy Musk money didn't buy Wisconsin voters. Our Supreme Court reigns supreme. Big smiley faces. I'm somehow in a group chat with her and her other 85-year-old friends. So it was adorable, but they're also thrilled because it's we will take what we can get at this point. I think between all of the negative Tesla press and the we will prosecute you as a terrorist if you light a Tesla on fire, this is all just really bad looks for the president and the White House administration. Donald Trump looks like the opening scenes of Succession, walking little zebra to the helicopter or whatever his name is. So it's not a good look for him. Do I think he's actually on his way out? No, I think it's a bunch of baloney. I think that's just what they're saying. Whether or not we see him in as much of a physical presence for a long time, I think he's going to kind of step away and back down. He'll still be there lurking in the shadows in President Trump or JD Vance's ear, whoever is actually doing stuff. But he's not going anywhere.
How much is he actually saving? DOGE is averaging one in every 3 days. There's another temporary restraining order and all these firings that are happening.
How much
are we spending? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I think it's an important point we were talking about DOGE because I keep getting asked about it and I'm a pretty strict fiscal conservative. I think so many of these agencies are over bloviated, spending pork on absolute bullshit and garbage. But one of the things that came out yesterday, which is it's conflicting reports if this is accurate or not, but that cancer research may or may not have been cut from NIH. And I cannot get a clear answer from people. And I've asked a lot of people.
But not even just NIH, from hospitals and from colleges doing research. It's all over the place. I spoke with my personal doctor who at UCLA, and she is petrified because of the funding that's been pulled from the CDC for doing cancer and disease research.
Yo, Megan, it made me laugh when they said that they canceled the Ebola funding for a day.
Oh, don't
I
talk to
thought
Meghan about
about you.
Ebola. Yeah.
Okay,
We have talked about Ebola for years.
Okay, so just a little
That's
flashback
Meghan's,
to
like,
when
big
Seena and
trigger
I
fear.
hosted together. No, I'm going to say this right now. My biggest nightmare is getting the Ebola virus.
Yeah.
Someone said it was racist for me to say that. I don't think it has anything to do with race at all. Because when I was growing up in the 90s, that book Outbreak came out. And then when Seena and I were hosting together in LA, there was an Ebola outbreak in New York City because that doctor went around to the Gutter Bar, which is a bar that Seena and I used to frequent. And then he went to the meatball shop, which was also a place that Seena and I used to frequent. And there was a small period of time that I legitimately thought Seena and I could have contracted the Ebola virus. We are way off topic, but we need Ebola research. It's very important.
Just
You
the
don't need
fact that
all
you couldn't,
research.
but just the fact that you couldn't find out if they canceled cancer research is on its face a huge problem.
Yes, it's a huge problem. We're gonna move on from this in 1 second, but I think that no matter who you are, if you are like the most libertarian of libertarian people, it is going to be a hard sell to be like, let's get rid of Ebola and cancer research. Given that America is the leading research in the world for all cancers, obviously my dad died of cancer. Like anyone who's had any experience,
I had cancer.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yes, Miranda had cancer. Oh God, I'm so sorry to like downplay that. Of course.
No,
Yeah. So
I
it's
don't
like,
care.
you know,
I
it's
did.
so she did. Miranda is a cervical cancer survivor. Anyway, I think it's going to be a hard thing. I think people are more angry about it than they're letting on, even Republicans in secret. And that doesn't mean we should like spend everything to an oblivion. Are we ready to move on? You guys good?
Can I say one thing about the debt real fast?
Yeah.
I understand the debt is a problem. I've read Ray Dalio's book. The debt is a huge issue. It's one of the reasons that big civilizations do fall. We're $36 trillion in debt. I see that in the chat right here that people are worried about it. But cutting spending from these agencies, you can cut the fat. You can cut people. You can reduce them. But we're talking about like this much debt for this much work. The amount of destruction and chaos that's been created is not saving you money. It is not doing it. And this tax cut is not going to help either.
And also some things are worth spending money on, like cancer research, in my opinion. I also want to remind everyone to please raise your hand if you want to ask me, Miranda, or Seena a question.
Yeah,
I got to move on. Yeah, we want to ask questions. I got to move on to, if you don't mind, Cory Booker last night. He delivered a marathon speech in protest of President Trump that broke the previous record for the longest filibuster in the Senate speech ever, clocking in at 25 hours and 5 minutes. He did not sit, exit the chambers, eat, or use the bathroom. Okay. So, and apparently he dehydrated himself beforehand. He gave an interview saying that he didn't drink water for a day before. Some people are calling this their moment of hope for Democrats. Frank Luntz, who hasn't been right about an election since 2012, is saying this. So I just want to put that out there that I don't think that man knows what he's talking about, but we're going to show a clip of him anyway. Number 2.
What Cory Booker did over the last 24 hours may have changed the course of political history.
And number 3.
I watched a lot of it. I listened to words. I listened to phrases, how he presents himself. Did he criticize Donald Trump? Of course he did. But he struck the kind of tone that grassroots Democrats are looking for. He gave them a reason to fight. He gave them a reason to stand up and say, this is my country too. That speech puts Cory Booker as one of the leaders for the Democratic Party, 2028, and I'll go even further. If you ask Democratic senators right now, would they rather have lead them over the next 3 years? They would choose Cory Booker over Chuck Schumer. That's how significant today was.
Yeah. Okay. And just in case anybody missed it, we're going to show a very short clip from Cory Booker's speech last night.
Promised to lower your grocery prices, they're higher. He promised, I'll be a better steward of the economy. It's worse than we inherited. Over and over, he's breaking promises and doing outrageous things like disappearing people off of American streets, violating fundamental principles of this document, invoking the Alien Enemies Act from the 1700s that was last used to put Japanese Americans in internment camps? Do we see what's happening? How much is enough?
All right. So I don't trust any man who dates Rosario Dawson and lets her go and get away. So I'm just going to put that out there. I don't trust his judgment. I've seen that, met her twice in person. One of the most stunningly, I mean, what are you doing? Anyway.
She's the coolest.
they dated and they are broken. Like what? Anyway, I want to know what did you guys make of this? I don't have time for this. I don't have time for it. I think it's performative. I'm not that interested in you like dehydrating yourself not to go to the bathroom. I just think that's strange. And I just think this is performative. And I honestly think Frank Luntz should maybe retire because I think his analysis is so off.
Someone pay that hair dye guy though for Frank Luntz. Sweet
I don't
Jesus.
believe that he dehydrated himself in advance. I think he just didn't want to answer a million questions about what kind of diaper he was wearing. That's it.
Very reasonable. I'll take that.
I think he had a situation.
All right, we talked about this on the Foreign Report. We recorded today, and there was a few
okay.
things.
Hang on. Let Meghan get herself together.
No, it's really. I hope he wore a diaper. I do.
I just assumed that was.
I
assumed it was a diaper.
I figured it was a diaper situation.
What else are we doing here?
What else is he gonna do? How else are you gonna stand there for 24 hours? I can't believe
My brother has done very long, like 15-hour surgeries without going to the bathroom, but there's like a lot of adrenaline, I guess, so it's possible to go a long time, but I
can't sit here and talk to you for 7 minutes without drinking my water bottle. So how is he? No, come on. Let's all be grown up.
We live in California. We drink water bottles.
Real.
All right. Do you guys
believe
astronaut? That he's the future of the Democratic Party and he has parachuted to the top of the list?
He said, no, Frank Luntz goes, people would view him better than Chuck Schumer. No shit. My
everybody hates Chuck Schumer.
Toenails are better than Chuck Schumer. Okay. Okay. Give me a break. Chuck Schumer. Listen, okay, we talked about this on the Foreign Report today, and I had a few thoughts on it. First, I was like, this is like in hockey when the enforcer comes out and punches a guy in the face to like change the vibe, change the energy in it. And my buddy Marcus was like, this is more like when they're like chanting in the stands. So it's like, oh, Cory Booker was kind of like the organ player getting everyone excited.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But here's, and there is a certain amount, it's technically a performance. It's a 25-hour performance. I totally get that. There's a certain amount. And I understand that there's a little bit of hope there. But what I think is super important, I don't want to lose this fact, is that he wiped Strom Thurmond off the history books.
Yeah.
A avowed segregationalist who, do we remember what he was filibustering? The 1957 Civil Rights Act. So for that alone, thank God he did it. But I'll tell you what, Cory Booker did more for veganism than he did for the Democratic Party's strategy with that filibuster, because you can't do that unless you're a vegan.
I mean, the memes about it were pretty good. I sent one to Meghan yesterday. I wish Cory Booker would read Sam Rothwell monologue from White Lotus during the filibuster.
That would have been incredible.
Oh my God. See, that would have gotten some eyeballs.
He did do a thing where it's like, I was at the movies with my mom and she told me I got to take my dad to the urinal. I got to take him to the bathroom. And he like did this whole thing about unzipping his dad's. It's like a whole weird thing.
Didn't Ted Cruz read Dr. Seuss one year? Like Redfish?
I think the filibuster is so stupid. For whatever that's, I think this is so stupid and American. Like, I don't see the point of it. I know that it's like something that like Senator Kirsten Sinema, you do.
It's very like a look at me and attention grabby. It's so at its core American. I love it so much.
When Cory Booker ran for president last time, I just remember interviewing him and being like, this man is so sublimely unimpressive in person, and that he fit a very specific time. I'm sorry, it's true. I'm not gonna like sugar Miranda's face, but like that he fit like a very specific moment in time in the pre-Trump years, which was much more hopeful, much more idealistic, much more like, I'm gonna tell you like great platitudes and poetry to talk about politics. And then obviously we have Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which is, I'm still gonna say that's the theme of American politics in 2015. It's like the badder, crazier, more intense sequel. And I just don't think he fits any of that.
Well,
I don't know why he would be the leader.
Smile.
But like also we need fighter, like not we, I mean you, my Democrat friends, need fighters. You need people who are going to rip the jugular out, who are going to come for, this stuff. And I just don't see this man who, again, like I think is actually a poet being the person to do it. Do you disagree?
Facts win arguments, passion wins elections. And the Republican Party has figured out the passion stuff, or the MAGA have figured out the passion stuff. Meanwhile, the Democrats are like, but the facts. And I get it.
That's
I went to law school.
Unconstitutional. Yeah.
I love facts. I love winning an argument, right? But there's three ways to win an argument. You can win an argument on your merits. My argument's better than your argument. You can win it by destroying the other person's argument. That argument's bad. Or you can destroy the playing field. And that's what MAGA has done. They destroyed the playing field, and they got everyone excited about it to burn the whole thing down. And look, here we are. We're going to have a liberation day today from low prices. That's what we're going to get liberated from. Ever having a low price on anything ever again.
Go ahead, Miranda, and then I want to.
Oh no, I was just
piggyback of that.
complaining.
Who do you, really quick before we move on? Who do you guys like? Anybody in the Democratic Party you think is the future? Anybody like
my wife? My wife, my child.
I would vote for
I
Cosmo.
also liked your wife.
Yeah,
I know. Everybody likes your wife, Seena.
I was like Jasmine Crockett, and then last week she blew that up. So
and then she made fun of paralyzed people, and Miranda's like, "I'm done, thank you."
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm done. I wouldn't say I'm done. Donald Trump also makes fun of paralyzed people, and he got to be president. Maybe for a third time. So we'll see. But
I think there's a. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I'm over caffeinated today, so I apologize if I'm stepping on it.
That's fine. Okay, I do want to ask really quick. Can you just say why it's Liberation Day? Right before we came on live, I saw that Trump was enacting a 10% tariff on, and excuse me, this just happened, like all goods coming into the United States.
Yeah.
I literally have to. I have an accountant. My husband has to help me with numbers. I was never good at numbers, and by the way, I'm living proof. You can get a C in algebra and do really well in life. Like I'm fine. I hate math. I hate numbers. I hate the economy. I'm so sorry, Seena. You're much more intelligent than I am. Can you explain what this means?
Yes.
Miranda, you're much more intelligent. Can you tell me how you're feeling?
Not with this. I'm listening to Seena.
Reciprocal tariffs are basically what's happening. He's been planning this. He didn't want to do it on April 1st because he's that much of a joke that he knows no one would believe him if he did this on April 1st. So he did it on April 2nd. And so it's 34% on all goods coming in from China. I'm seeing 26% from India, 20% on the EU. And it looks like on everything, literally everything. Cool. I'm not seeing any carve outs. And forgive me, this is, again, just all coming out. And he's basically talking about the fight back. So anyone that had tariffs on us, we're having reciprocal tariffs on them at a much higher rate. And
so what does this mean for, like, you're buying kids' birthday party invitations from Amazon?
When the eggs, cars, what?
When the goods come in, they'll pay that tariff. So that the person, whoever receives that, right, the company that receives that brings that in, will have to pay it, and either that company, that local company, that domestic U.S. company, will either have to eat that cost, or since we live in this country, they will pass that on to the consumer. And so we are going to all pay more for all these things. They talk about cars, okay? They talk about the cars coming in. So let's say a car is made in America. What does made in America actually mean? Does every single part come from America? No. Parts come from all over the world. So every part is going to be tariffed as well. So I actually got an email from the Mazda dealership because I bought a Mazda, and they said, please sell your car before Thursday or buy a new one. We have a lot of 3,000 cars that aren't going to be subject to tariffs. I was like, this is the thirstiest email I've ever gotten from a car dealership in my life.
They want you.
That's
I'll
terrible.
tell you this. I'm already suffering the effects of the tariffs and import issues because I went to go buy my husband. He's a carpenter, and I went to go buy him some new pants because he goes through pants like a toddler. And I couldn't get the color that he wanted because they no longer will import them. I could only get black. He doesn't want black. He wants
shut up, Miranda.
Whatever. Megan, I swear to God,
I believe you.
I'm not going to name the company because I don't want to put them on blast. But they're like, you can get them in black. We have 1 million black ones already here in our American warehouse, but we are no longer importing any of the other colors.
I made a raised garden bed in my backyard here in Los Angeles, California, to grow fruit and vegetables. So look out.
So you don't have to buy more.
Seena's farmers.
No, that's not going to happen. It's going to be like 3 months before I can have a strawberry. But it's the thought that counts.
In all serious, well, first of all, I did a garden and then the goddamn squirrels ate all of it, and the birds. So for whatever that's worth, it didn't turn out too well. How nervous should we be about? Like, I keep hearing that like Americans should be prepared to like be in a lot of pain for this short term before we're seeing the effects of tariffs. Does that mean everything in our lives?
How short of a term is short term?
The idea, and this is, again, everyone should look up this guy, this conservative economist, Orrin Cass. He is how the Trump administration is really deriving a lot of their economic policy from. He talks a lot about working people. The way the tariffs are being installed is not what he ever envisioned. You're supposed to do the tariffs early, make them something that predictable. But what the Trump administration is planning is short-term pain, long-term gain. The idea here is that manufacturing would come back to America. Here's the huge problem with all of this. Let's say manufacturing in a perfect world, like a car company, decides to make a car manufacturing facility here in the United States. Are they going to hire Frank, the guy that's got a wrench, to weld that car door on? No. Frank is going to be polishing HAL 3000, the robot that puts the door on top. Automation and robots and AI are going to be driving the entire supply chain soon. We're not going to be having this bastion of absolute manufacturing glory.
It's not
and
Henry
take
Ford
years.
and the Industrial Revolution. We're not going to have that again. Yeah.
Well, I would like you guys to come back on and talk about this when eggs cost $50 a carton.
Oh, God.
We're all having to live in a commune
They're already
together because we
expensive,
can't afford anything. This next topic is actually, this is a tough one because none of us, I think all of us are dovish on immigration. I'm the first person to say I'm not a hardline immigration person at all, coming from a border state, just not how I was raised. And I think we need a secure border, but I do not agree with a lot of things that are happening. I was a supporter of the Dreamers, et cetera. So this is I really hate this story. There was a man who was in the United States legally, and he was accidentally deported to El Salvador as a result of what the Trump administration called a, quote, administrative error. The man's wife and 5-year-old child are both U.S. citizens. He is now being held in, quote, a mega prison in El Salvador. And the Trump administration officials say that there's nothing that they can do to correct this error, given that he is no longer in U.S. custody. Caroline Leavitt defended the deportation, telling reporters in the administration that they had evidence he was a convicted member of the Salvadorian gang MS-13, even though he has never gone to trial or pled guilty. I actually have a clip of Joe Rogan, of all people, also horrified by this. Number 4.
You got to get scared that people who are not criminals are getting lassoed up and deported and sent to El Salvador prisons. This is kind of crazy that could be possible. That's horrific, and that's bad for the cause. The cause is, let's get the gang members out. Everybody agrees, but let's not innocent gay hairdressers get lumped up with the gangs, and then how long before that guy can get out? Can we figure out how to get him out? Is there any plan in place to alert the authorities that they've made a horrible mistake?
Just reaction.
The most important right we have in America is not the freedom of speech. It's not the freedom to religion or press. It is the freedom to due process that protects those rights. That is the most important thing. That's what the world depends on us, that we have due process, that things will take a while to process a right being taken away or an argument or a dispute to be adjudicated. That is by far why are we the reserve currency? Because people trust that if there's a dispute, it will take a while. There's a trusted process, and that we know in America, the government will not take advantage of that process. And now this, I'm telling you right now, this stuff, eroding the due process of people in this country, is the single worst thing this administration could do to destroy the fundamental fabric of our institutions and our place in the global economy.
And his question about, are there systems in place to get this guy back? No. Caroline Leavitt has already said she's denying any wrongdoing or whatever. And for every father that's been taken, or college student who was yanked off the sidewalk, or gay hairdresser that's there's probably 25 other people who are innocently rounded up and then flown out in the cover of the night without the judge's order being obeyed. So I hate everything about how they're going through about these deportations. None of it is, I hate to bring it back to around this, but none of it is constitutional. They need to be represented in court. They need to have their criminal records exposed. They need to be investigated. This is absolutely insane. This is happening in our country in 2020.
I want gang members, especially people who are put in those hotels in Colorado.
But sometimes there are these ancillary children gang members. Their dads are gang members, and the kids are being taken too. There's a lot of very weird extenuating circumstances around this, and they're just rounding up everybody and throwing them basically in the trains out to go.
The thing I don't understand is apparently with this gay hairdresser, it was his tattoos that they thought, because he had a tattoo of a crown on his wrist, but I guess it was
the same thing to the professional soccer player. He had a soccer tattoo they didn't understand.
But it's not a gang tattoo. It's something for his parents.
Yeah. This is
They
how.
don't
This
get
is
the
why
tattoos.
in court they figure this out. With the gentleman that was sent to El Salvador, he was wearing a Chicago Bulls jersey, and some informant said in a court proceeding that this guy was. The judge did not deem him as part of MS-13. The judge actually said, you could stay in the country. We're going to have another trial in a year, do check-ins with ICE, and we'll take care of you. You're doing fine. That's what a judge said. If this judge would have deemed him a threat, they would have kicked him out.
A friend of a friend of mine a friend who works for a friend of mine is, from my understanding, she is Hispanic. She's a citizen here, but she and her friends are now carrying around their passports everywhere they go because they're so petrified of this news and the things that are happening right now.
At this point, though, does it matter? Does it matter?
I mean,
I
mean, it's horrible. I'm sorry to put a damper and have our last topic be so dark, but this is what's going on in our country. Is there anything you two want to add on this or anything else? I could obviously talk to you for entirely the rest of the show, but we have Jonathan Allen and and Amie Parnes coming on about their new book, Fight Inside the Weirdest Battle for the White House, all about like the juicy gossip about Obama trying to shiv Kamala, and I really want to get the gossip on that. Is there anything else you guys want to add? Is there anything? I really appreciate you taking time to come on. I could honestly just, co-host a show with you all day, every day, both of you. I love you so much. Anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
I think just one real quick thing. I think AOC will be the leader of the Democratic Party moving forward. I don't think she's going to run for office. I think there's a difference between leading the Democratic Party and running for presidency.
Like
I think this is what we've been waiting for. And by the way, I wear a Bernie hat a lot now more, and that's my I told you so hat. So
Do you get shit for that in public, though?
No, people love it.
Well, I mean, you were in LA, actually.
Yeah, what am I
doing? No one's going
doing?
to say anything to you. Forget it.
You're welcome to come around me in any red area. Come to Arizona, wear a Bernie hat. I have lots of friends who are Bernie fans. There's a weird synergy between Trump and Bernie people and the like populism. So
one of them actually knows how to stand up for the working man.
Touche. Miranda, anything else you want to add?
Just thanks. This was fun, and I love seeing everybody's faces and their reactions. I love it.
I love an audience.
I love it.
We all love it.
Hi, everybody.
All three of us love a camera. Who's like,
of course, yes.
let's not,
have camera will come. Yes.
Okay, you can follow Seena, his two podcasts, one on Sirius XM and the last podcast on the Lad Podcast Network. Excuse me, the Foreign Report, which is a weekly show about geopolitics. It's very serious. I listen to it, but it's very serious man, Seena.
Seena's so smart.
You're very intelligent.
Like the most brilliant man, yes.
Former lawyer turned comedian, and his Fraudsters true crime comedy show that dives deep into major scams. Very good. And Miranda, of course, you can listen to our podcast, Citizen McCain, or follow her very funny social media. Just at Miranda. That's her social media.
You got at Miranda?
Yep.
Yeah, bitch. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Damn.
At Miranda. You can real easy to find, you guys. I love you both. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And do me a favor, come back next week if you have time. I would love to talk to you again.
You want, Megan.
Love you both.
Take care. Bye.
See you soon. Okay, I'm very excited about these next two guests. We have Jonathan Allen and Amie Parnes here to discuss their new book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. Excuse me. Thank you all so much for coming on and making time. I understand you guys had to fit me into your crazy press schedule. You've been everywhere. I really appreciate you taking time.
No, you don't know. We wanted to do this podcast so badly. It was honestly in our top 5. And then suddenly it was like a flood of things.
Well, that's very nice. But you guys have been I've literally seen you on TV everywhere. First and foremost, I just want to know, this book is so juicy and so good. It's everything I want from knowing the background gossip about what really happened in the last election. How did you guys decide to write this book, and how hard was it to report on?
Well, so we had written 2 other election books, one in 2016 called Shattered, which a lot of people have read. One in
it's great.
Called Lucky, which was about how Joe Biden barely won the presidency. We weren't going to do an election book this time around because of all it was the vibe of the double haters, and people weren't very interested in this election. And then suddenly at the end of June of last year, it got really exciting. And our publisher came to us and said, would you guys want to do another book? And of course, we jumped in because we were both very excited about how the turn of events, if you will.
Basically, the Biden-Trump debate. The short answer,
yeah.
How do we decide to do a book? We saw what happened there, and within a week, the cannibalization on the Democratic side. And we were like, whatever happens from here on out is going to be the most electric, most propulsive election of our lifetimes, and it certainly delivered.
It's definitely one of those moments in my life that I'll never forget where I was when I was watching the debate. I was doing laundry in my room and my laundry basket fell all over the floor because I was so shocked of like what I was watching. But one of the criticisms,
Wait, Megan, are you the kind of person that picks up the clean laundry after it on the floor, puts it that in the basket, or do you feel like you have to wash it again because?
No, I picked it up, but I was so shocked. And then my husband came in later and he was like, "What is all this stuff everywhere?" And I was like, "Hey, I think our president's brain is not functioning. Like it's really scary." And I'm not saying that to be like hyperbolic. It was just a scary moment, I think, for all Americans. Can I ask you, what was you're seeing in your book? It's crazy. Ron Klain coming out, who I thought was one of the Biden's like biggest supporters, closest advisors, closest everything, coming out and being highly critical of President Biden. How did you get him to go on the record with that? And are you surprised by some of the people so close to Biden now deciding that they're comfortable to sort of speak the truth?
Well, what happened was in 2023 was actually Rahm Emanuel's brother, Ari Emanuel, the guy who Entourage is based on Ari Emanuel's, one of the characters, the character Ari is based on Ari Emanuel. He actually was at an event, like a very private event in Aspen, and he did not talk to us, but at the event, he basically gave Ron Klain a hard time and said, Joe Biden clearly can't run for president. He's clearly not going to win. He's clearly too old, which of course we all know too old was a metaphor or a euphemism for the deterioration that I think we all saw in Joe Biden, that the Democratic Party, and particularly the White House and the Biden campaign, tried to play down. And so Klain reacted and said, basically, well, he is going to be the candidate. It was not a defense of Biden, but it was, he's going to be the nominee. There's no way to stop that, so get used to it. Suck it up, buttercup, basically.
Jonathan and Amie, I live in the Beltway. I guess a swamp creature. And I had heard a lot of rumors for a long time about President Biden, which I'm sure you guys did as well. And there was a certain point where I remember talking to a reporter who's a friend of mine and saying, like, is anybody ever going to actually report on this? Because, like, again, if I'm hearing rumors, I'm like 9 degrees of separation. Why do you think it was so hard for so many people in the press to report on? Is it just because it's like sort of untoward to discuss health? Like, I feel like it was like the secret everyone was talking about but wasn't saying.
I think the big problem is we're not doctors.
Okay.
So when you talk about health, it's very difficult, particularly even if we were doctors, we're not diagnosing the patient. There was such limited contact between Biden and the press, intentionally on the part of the White House, that really the reporting that that the press was able to do at the time was based on what the people close to him said. And what the people close to him said was, he's just fine. And it did not comport with the reality that Americans saw. And I think that was part of the reason Biden was being rejected. It's part of the reason he was unpopular. Even before the debate, he was losing to Donald Trump. And after the debate, obviously, his numbers slid. So that's not to give, I don't think the press covered itself in glory, but also it is very difficult to get access to the president of the United States. And the people around him were trying to protect him.
I also
Sorry,
think
go ahead.
Bad rap. I mean, John and I both covered this administration. I have done a number of stories about his age. I remember doing a story about his
This isn't necessarily directed at you two, because I know your work.
No, but it's become a thing right now to just blame the press and act like we were asleep at the switch. But we were all kind of, aware and asking questions and getting a lot of blowback from the White House, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure. I remember like even hearing and seeing, and it almost came to a point where I think it was just like propagandistic. I want to ask you more about other aspects of your book, but my last question on President Biden, is the Biden family and the Biden team, are they aware now, given that President Trump has won, Vice President Harris wasn't able to take it over the finish line, are they aware of how bad things are and how they're looked at so negatively by not just Republicans, but Democrats as well? Like, is the Biden family aware of how bad this is? Because he announced last week that he wanted to like get back in and fundraise. And my reaction was like, you need to stay in Delaware.
Yeah, I think they're in a bit of denial. I think the entire party is in a little bit of denial right now. They don't want to look themselves in the mirror and admit what happened. I don't think he does either. I don't think there is any sort of accountability yet. And that is sort of the first step I think Democrats need to take if they want to come out of the wilderness. I think there needs to be some sort of acceptance phase where they can actually say, this is what went wrong. This is how it went wrong. Not just we're going to, gloss this over and move on and find the next candidate. I think they need to actually do some introspection, if you will.
One of the things that's making a lot of news today is the news that President Obama was actually working against Vice President Harris in the presidential race, and he was advocating for an open primary after Biden dropped out. I guess they didn't think, I mean, the quote yesterday that you said, Amie, was President Obama absolutely did not think that Joe Biden could continue, and he also didn't want Kamala to be the replacement. I didn't know that. I never even heard that. I didn't know that. Why did he have such little faith in Vice President Harris, and why wasn't he ultimately successful?
Well, he knew her pretty well. This is somebody that he was familiar with. The thing that was famous was that he had said that she was the best looking attorney general in the country, which, went over like a lead balloon, not only for the country, but with Michelle Obama, right?
It's not great.
So he was not a big fan of her political abilities to begin with. He wanted an open primary. The people around him would defend him and say, what he was really trying to do was make sure that if she won, she had been tested effectively and that it was legitimate. But the truth is, even after Biden hands off the baton and endorses her, which was a crazy story that you can read about in the book, it's probably too long to go into here, but it actually took them 2 phone calls to get her to persuade Biden to endorse her.
Wow.
But what happens, Obama is still trying to get an open primary going. And we know this because Jim Clyburn raced his own endorsement of Harris out ahead of a phone call that he had scheduled with Obama. And Clyburn knew Obama was going to ask him to support an open primary. And so Clyburn was able to get on the phone with Obama and say, it's too late, I already endorsed her. And that phone call lasted less than a minute. It was on the same day that Biden got out and endorsed Harris.
Do you have any reporting on who he would have preferred?
We have some. He liked a bunch of the governors, in particular, he liked Governor Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan. He also likes Wes Moore from Maryland. Some folks thought that was the ticket that he would have preferred. I think if there was an open primary situation or an open convention situation, he probably would have done all of the work that he did as much behind the scenes without fingerprints as possible, as he did to try to get that open convention in the first place.
Do you think that Vice President Harris's team was aware that she more than likely wouldn't win? Because I remember speaking to friends of mine who were supporting her at the time and saying, I really think, especially after President Trump was shot, that it would take a miracle from God to get her into the White House. Were they aware of I'm not trying to be cruel, but she was not the most, the most impressive candidate I've ever seen run for president. Do you think they were aware that she was going to lose or could lose?
Well, I think one of the biggest revelations of this book, and I don't want to give it all away, but you get
of course not.
The end, and she's shocked, and Tim Walz is shocked that they've lost. They went in to election night thinking that they were going to win, and that's the biggest surprise there. And I don't think a lot of people realize that they were so surprised. And I think part of the reason is she looked at her crowds. They fooled themselves into thinking the vibe was there and that, this was another Obama kind of situation. It was not. And we have people in the book internally that say, that they felt gaslit, that the campaign was gaslit by the upper brass.
Well, I saw an interview with some of the Obama bros afterward on Pod Save America, and they seemed wholeheartedly shocked about the obviously President Trump winning a second term. I swear this all has a point. Michelle Obama has recently come out with a podcast that is not doing very well at all, both with downloads, streams, attention. And it surprised a lot of people because she's Michelle Obama. I think the era of Obama hope and change this election was the last of it. I don't think their endorsement means what it once did. I don't think they have the influence they once did. Do you think the Obama team is aware of the lack of reach their endorsements have? And is there anyone in the party right now, other than Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, that you think could sort of take over the mantle to take on Trump right now?
So, as far as the Obamas go, they will always have some influence. They'll have a place in history, but Barack Obama had lost his influence with Joe Biden by not supporting Biden when he wanted to run in 2016, not supporting him in 2020. He was not able to get Joe Biden to get out of the race, but he wanted to get him out of the race. He didn't want Kamala Harris to be, essentially coronated or to have this sort of quick nomination. That didn't happen. It's clear his influence in the Democratic Party has diminished greatly. And by the way, he's made some serious enemies out of people who were the more recent nominees of the Democratic Party. So I think there's always going to be some love for the Obamas among Democrats. I think they were very important for the Democrats, but at the same time, their influence is definitely way, way down from where it used to be. And as far as the future of the Democratic Party, I mean, Nancy Pelosi, if you watch all of this over time, she's the one Democrat in the entire situation. You can go through all the episodes in the book, but like she's the one Democrat through the whole situation who puts her own interests below those of the party and what she believes are the interests of the country. And that is sort of consistent. And whether you agree with her on what was in the interest of the party and the country, it is very clear that what she wanted to do was try to make it so that Donald Trump could not be president with both the Senate and the House. Now, it didn't work, but all of her actions were sort of pointed toward that. And so I think she's somebody that is both still effective, and she had courage to try to get Biden out of the race when other Democrats wouldn't, and leave some fingerprints. But she's in her mid-80s. I mean, she's not the future of the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party is going to have leaders that actually kind of grow up from the grassroots a little bit. We've seen such a disconnect from the leadership of the Democratic Party and what the voters actually want, what their own voters want, much less the broader set of voters that they're going to have to persuade.
Can I make a pitch to both of you? I would like to watch any HBO, Apple, whatever show about the 2 weeks between President Biden's debate and then him dropping out. I want to know what happened. I want to know what Nancy Pelosi did. There's so many rumors that I've heard about her basically saying like, you're dropping out or I'm making you drop out. Do you have any reporting on that? Do you find that period of history as fascinating as I do? It's so dramatic and like, so I still can't believe we all experienced this together. Do you have any reporting on that?
Yeah, it's the first half of this book, basically that time period. And it is written in a way where you get that kind of 360 of what are all the characters doing? How are they talking to each other? We report on the conversations between Pelosi and Biden. A lot of what she did was just slowly move in public. But we get behind the scenes with the conversation she's having with donors, the conversation she's having with other lawmakers, again, the one she's having with Biden, the two conversations she had with Obama during that period of time, conversation between Obama and Biden, like all of these players, we really dive into that in more depth than anyone has before, with a lot of new reporting. And your lips to God's ear, Meghan. I hope somebody wants to take this book and make it into.
I mean, a lot of people have told us that. They've said, the first half of this book reads like a movie.
You need to sell this. It's too interesting. Respectfully. My last
if you've
question.
got any good contacts, Meghan, we would love to have them off the two.
I mean, I don't know how much I do, but I would watch that in a second. My last question for you guys, because we're running a little on time, is just what is the difference between reporting on a Trump White House now and the Biden White House before? And are you enjoying it anymore? Is it like just a totally different beast because it's such a, more intense, wild, open administration? What is Trump 2.0 like for you guys?
I think the biggest difference is that the president is speaking for the president in this administration, and everything flows from what the president decides in this administration. From a press perspective, there is access to Donald Trump on, maybe too much access.
Yeah.
I would never say too much, like actually too much access, but really, I mean, he is available to the public and to the press very, very often. And that was not the case with Joe Biden. And I mean, obviously, different presidents have a different means of running their administrations, which decisions flow up to them, which get made at a lower level. But really, the Trump administration follows what he says. And with Biden, it is a little bit more of kicking certain decisions up to him and making others at a staff level.
And what's really interesting about that is that Joe Biden, classic Joe Biden, used to be that. I remember going to his house when he was vice president at the Naval Observatory. He would hold court and talk to reporters until the wee hours of the morning. And he loved that. He loved private dinners with reporters. So something happened where they really tightened the leash at the start of the Biden administration, and it changed, and it was really palpable to a lot of us.
The younger Joe Biden had a real commonality with a certain senator from Arizona, Meghan, in that way. If you talk to them in the hallways on Capitol Hill, you'd get an earful about a wide variety of topics, and the Joe Biden in the White House was simply not the same guy.
Somebody told me just a few weeks ago that there was an old saying on Capitol Hill that the most dangerous place in DC was between my dad and a camera. I think that probably, or him and a
I covered
reporter or
your dad,
something.
and it's true.
He was such a ham, like loved everybody. But I have my colleague Mark Halperin wants to come in and say hi, but I want to ask all of you, including him, when you write your next book about the next election, do you think it will be about Vice President Vance and AOC? Who do you think, are there any players you can predict, or is that too hard? Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Go
I would say Wes Moore, going back to
Oh.
the Obama thing. I think he's gaining steam in a lot of Democratic circles, but I do think that they need to really, really, really not just move forward, but move a little backward, figure out really what went wrong, and then go with their candidate or preferred candidate.
I mean, what's the Democrats' vision for the country? Donald Trump's vision for the country was very clear. And the Democratic vision for the country was, and I really mean that in a future sense. I mean, we know what the Democrats want to protect. What we don't know is how are they going to move the country forward? And I don't think Joe Biden was a good messenger for that. And I don't think Kamala Harris was a good messenger for that. So I'd like to wait to see who it is that comes forward on that side. Donald Trump's not willing at this point to say that he doesn't want to be on the ticket in 2028. So I also let that breathe. It's nice to see Mark here. His book Game Change and his other book Double Down, and I know he has other books that weren't those, but Game Change was an absolute inspiration to us in covering presidential elections, and there's been multiple iterations of the genre, but that book Game Change is the sort of modern gold standard in terms of coverage of presidential elections. So it's nice to see you, Mark.
Well, very nice to see you both, and I no need to talk about me, but very nice of you to say. And congratulations to you two. Writing books, as I know you both know, it's the hardest thing of all the things we do. Yeah. It's the hardest, and I'm really so impressed that you guys have stuck with it. And this was an irresistible story, and I'm glad you got the opportunity to do it. So congratulations. And Megan already said it, but everybody should buy the book. It's a great read, and it's an important story. It's not just a great story, but it's an important story. So thank you guys for doing it and for coming on Two Way.
Yeah, and everybody, please go pick up Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And Jonathan Allen, you can find him on X at Jonathan Allen DC. And Amie, you are at Amie Parnes, on X. You can find their work on The Hill and at NBC. I really do appreciate you both taking time to come on. Like I said, I understand there's scheduling issues, so I'm really grateful for the time. It's a really juicy, delicious book. It's the exact kind of book I love to read, just what it's work. I don't like boring books. I can't handle it. I don't have that much time. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mark, nice to see you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
All right, with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much. Like I said, go pick up their book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And I will be back again, same time, same place on Monday at 5 o'clock. And you guys are invited to come back anytime you want to talk any juicy DC gossip you want. I love it.
Can we just do some comedy with you?
You can do you can come on and talk about anything you want. Anything you want. Thank you guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye.